All right, everybody, what's going on? Happy Sunday night to you and yours. You're watching Chewin the Fat. And boy, do we have a lot of fat to chew tonight because this woman next to me, and I haven't said it yet, I've been dying to say it. And the more I think about it, I can't wait to say it. Because the actions and love of the business of professional wrestling that this woman has gone through in her life and then with her husband Paul has led to so many things. We would never have Joel Goodhart. We'd never have the Tri-State Wrestling Alliance. We'd never have Tod Gordon. We'd never have ECW. We would never have, if you think about it, the Attitude Era of WWE. We would never have the crowds chanting in all these foreign countries that we see on these WWE shows every month. There's so much that we would never have. And I got to say, it's all her fault. Let's welcome her to the show. Carmela from Rasslin Radio Relived.
Hi. Hi. Thank you for having me.
Do you realize the damage you've done to the wrestling business, Carmela?
I don't know about all that.
but seriously, have you ever, isn't it weird to think about that? Like, the actions in life, like, whoever would have thought, now, I can't wait to get into this, because I only know tidbits of your story, but I know, from when you were young, your parents brought you into the wrestling world, and so all of those things, if they didn't happen, we never would have had all. It's all your fault. I mean, seriously, it's all your fault. As Jimmy Garvin would have said, it's all my fault. It's all your fault, Carm.
Well, thank you, but in all fairness, like we talked about before the show, sometimes when things line up a certain way, things happen because they're meant to happen.
Yes.
And when I was a little girl, I went to the wrestling matches because I had to. My parents never had a babysitter. We never believed in babysitters, even me with my children, just didn't have it. So if the parents couldn't bring their children, they didn't go, and weddings and stuff included. No, so we got stuck going with my parents, and the first place I ever went to was the Philadelphia Arena, which was like my home. Yeah. And my mom and dad were very good friends from as far back as boxers. Like I always say, two-ton Tony Galento was a good friend of my father's. And he told my father, I saw him, I was there. I was 6, but I remember. He put his arm around my father and he pointed to a door and he said, you know what? He goes, all decisions are made in that door. And my father was shocked because he didn't know either at the time, And he was like, wow, he didn't know that. And then one thing led to another. And back then, wrestlers had to fend for themselves all the time. They made virtually no money. Okay.
Right.
They had to take their $50 or $100 that they made a night, and they had to get their own trans. They had to get their own hotel. They had to get their own food, et cetera, et cetera. And so my mom and dad, being Italian, my mother was a saint. Anyway, she would just say, well, I'll cook dinner or whatever. And then they started coming, let's go to my house, come to my house.
Do you ever say, something that's said many times, in conversations with people and situations in life? What we say in my house, because my fiance is Italian from Brooklyn, I'm Italian from the South Philadelphia area. When it comes down to it, don't you just end up saying, but they're not Italian? When situations and people just don't, doesn't make sense, you're like, but they're not Italian.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. All the time. If you're Italian, you got all this down pat. You know what I mean? So, and that's how it happened. The first 2 people to ever come to my house were Tony Pugliese, which he wrestled as Parisi. They introduced him as Bruno's cousin from Italy.
Okay.
And he lived in Canada, but he was from Italy. And at the time, his name was Louis Cerdan, but he was also Gino Brito. He also did that. But anyway, they came to my house. And my mom, 2 o'clock in the morning is making pasta and meat sauce and all that stuff. And we're just sitting there having a grand old time. And it was summertime and the windows were all open and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden we're sitting there and just chatting. And my mom had some music on. We had some Italian music on. And Tony and Louie just started singing opera to that music my mother had on. You should have heard them. It was like, oh my God. They would put Luciano Pavarotti to shame. Trust me. Okay. It was like this, all of a sudden, my uncle comes downstairs, neighbors are coming outside, and they're like, what the heck is going on here? And that was the beginning. That was the actual beginning of everything that happened. Everything that happened ballooned like so much since then. And then, like I said, that was the beginning of them always being at my house. If I cannot honestly tell you how many wrestlers we've had at my house or how many times they've been there. Then my mom passed away, God bless her. She passed away when I was only 20, turning 21.
Okay.
And within a year and a half from the time I was 20.
So right this was going on for many years, though.
Oh, yeah, I was 6. So from 6 years old until 20, yeah, all that was going on all the time. Because during that time, we used to go watch roller derby, too, at the arena.
Okay.
And my idol at the time, my God, my idol was Judy Arnold.
Okay.
Okay. So as time went on, I'm like, oh, God, I want to meet her. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. And now we're very good friends. I did ultimately meet her. And we became very good friends. And we're very close to this day, But my mom... They used to call her the ringside Rosie of the East Coast, because my mom used to hit everybody. I mean, she would get so mad, like it was ridiculous. She'd yell and scream, and my dad would yell at her and stop it, and
okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Did your parents refuse to believe it was fake?
They did until Two-Ton Tony Galena told my father that night that he said to him, all decisions are made in there. Then my father was like, and then we talked about it. And then when Louie and Tony came over, we talked about it, well, they did anyway. And I just listened. But, yeah, we used to have like so many things going on. Like Bruno, for some reason, it was so funny. Every time he'd come out, if my mother was there, he'd come out walking like this with his head down because he knew she was going to hang on his neck. And he had no choice, But yeah, my mom, one time, as a matter of fact, you remember the Grand Wizard, right?
Sure.
Ernie Roth. Well, my mom, one time we were sitting in the front row. My mom took a soda and threw it right at him. And she yelled, "You son of a bitch." She's like, and the cops are going to take her out, and he told them no. He said, let her stay here. She's good for me. She's good for the business.
Wow.
He even bought her another soda, got her another soda. And, that happened like all the time. Like the wrestlers, Lou Albano, Fred Blassie. Fred Blassie used to call my mother a pencil neck geek more times than I think Carter has liver pills. Okay. and it was funny because like we loved it. And to see sometimes if a bad guy came over your house, and all of a sudden he's like so sweet and he laughs with you and jokes with you and talks to you, it's kind of like a shock because kayfabe back then was so big. I mean, it was so defined, and then to see somebody like, let's say, Ox Baker or whoever spending the weekend with us or something like that, having this man that had this massive head and this massive beard and these eyebrows that went up into a circle and scary as hell, come downstairs and pick up my little girl and hold her on his lap playing, and he's got red or pink nail polish on his toes, having a great time, But I mean, it's like those were the best days in the world. They were literally the best days.
Let me ask you this, because when I first started getting bit by the wrestling bug around 1980 or so, I was like 10 years old. And I would go and start buying the magazines. Like everybody made fun. Like I was shocked. Like the kids at school made fun of me. They're like, how could you even like that fake stuff? And I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean it's fake? Like I couldn't understand that. So, I mean, you were like way next level, for many years from a young age growing up. Did you get any like torture like that from school, or did people
God, are you kidding? Oh my God. all the time. And I went, and now, mind you, I went to a Catholic school, okay? And this was I was about 12 years old when I first met Dominic DeNucci.
Okay.
And, I was telling all the kids, I didn't even know when I was little who these people really were. They were my friends. We would go see them, beat each other up in the ring. And I didn't have that knowledge, of course. I was little.
Sure.
So when I was 12, Dominic had just come into our lives, and Bruno had been there. So one day I'm at school, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the door. My 7th grade teacher, we were just talking about it not too long ago. My 7th grade teacher opens the door, and it's Bruno and Dominic. And they're like, we need to pick up Carmela. And he looked at them. He's like, what? Who? And he's like, we're here to pick up Carmela. And Dominic, he was so, oh my God. He said to the teacher, he goes, her mom and dad, they don't like her no more. So we came to get her, stuff like that. So yeah, my friends were like beside themselves. So I went home with Dominic and Bruno, but it was fun. It was so much fun. And then at one point, my mother, God bless her soul, she died when she was only 48. She had colon cancer. And within a year and a half, I lost my whole family. I went from a big family to nobody in a year and a half. And then I started doing the cooking, I started having the mover because I didn't want it to stop. It's like, what kept me going? I was working 80, 90 hours a week just to keep my head going. So then I started doing it, and then we had tons and tons of people over. And then as I got older, you get older, you start dating them and then blah, 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 and all that, And then now it's like, I see these young kids coming in. I feel like they're my children because like now I'm old, and I'm like, well, whatever. But I got to tell you, I had an incredible life, Bay. I wouldn't give it up for all the tea in China. I had the best life when I was a kid with the wrestling.
It's kind of mind blowing. Like, when you put pictures up occasionally, when you see pictures of like you and Andre and Dominic DeNucci, like to say it is one thing, but when you see the pictures, and you can tell it's just not like, oh, we're just, back then they didn't even have them, but it's not like, oh, it was like a convention picture and we're at the table. These are true pictures of friends, and you can see that they were sincere.
Well, the one with Andre was actually in a hotel room. My ex-husband, Paul, my mother, Andre, and myself, we all drove down to Georgia because he was wrestling there and he was staying at my house. So we all went to Georgia together. And that was in the hotel. And, back then it was all Polaroids and stuff like that. So the picture was blurry, but I've actually been accused of it being a poster board and me standing in front of a poster board. Well, then the one with Andre and my mother, he's actually got his arm around my mother. So I'm like, yeah, how do you do that with a poster board? And I have another one. I have to find it, but it's in the same background, same hotel where he's picking me up like this on one arm. So I don't think a poster board would be able to do that, Yeah. I also have pictures I would have put up on my next podcast probably of me and Ivan Putski through the years. Like the one when I first met him, I was 17 years old, was at Hamburg Fieldhouse. Then down further is he and I at my house. You can tell that we're in my house with my little girl sitting on his lap. And then afterwards, about 3 or 4 years ago, we were at the 2300 Arena, and he was one of the people at the con. And it's funny, Jeannie and I went when we got there. He was sitting there, God bless him, and he looked over at us, and he's like, "Hi, can I help you, ladies?" And I'm like, and I looked at him like with this face, like, "What? What do you mean? Can you help me?" Then all of a sudden he was like, "Oh, Carmela!" He yells real loud. He gets up. Oh my God! Because I hadn't seen him for like 45 years, and he remembered every single thing. We talked for about 20 minutes, and he was like, "Oh my God, do you remember this? Remember that?" We were going. He's 83 now. This was only a couple years ago. Yeah, I'm 67. He's 83, but remembered everything. And that does my heart so much good, because these are the memories that you have. Like we had a tribute show on my podcast for Dominic. Dominic was my family. Literally when my mom and all them, everybody died and everything, my dad just left me. He just abandoned me. And Dominic got really pissed at that. And he literally stepped up as much as he could. Yeah, he would come to my house and he would, offer to do things for me. He would fix things when they broke, or he would, help me with food and stuff like that. He was a saint. He was an honorable man, very good man, and he was family. He was more than a friend. A lot of the wrestlers to us were more than friends.
That's pretty amazing when you come to think of it. Like, this whole thing started, when you were a young age, and okay, let's face it. In all honesty, in many years, and I've seen it in my years in the business, where, and it's a horrible thing to say, but it's so true. Like, people like yourself, and I witnessed it. So many of the boys just used and abused these poor people for whatever it was. You know what I mean? But when they're coming around and they're doing things like that, I mean, that's when it's like, this is like real. This is not, we're abusing this person. We're not using this person to get something out of them. When they're turning around like that's like you said, like, that's true family.
Oh yeah, like Ivan was at my house for one time. He was there for a week, and he taught my mom how to make dumplings and dumpling soup, or dumpling and meat, chicken and dumplings, something like that. And him and my mom were in the kitchen cooking, and I'm like, "Excuse me, aren't you supposed to be here to see me?" He's like, "Go sit down. We'll talk later." But it's crazy. It's just crazy. But the other thing is, you got to understand something too. Respect goes both ways.
Sure.
Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of the women back then, I don't know what it's like now. I'm not involved in wrestling like that anymore. But when the women were called names, the guys did use them. The guys used them a lot to run errands, to go to the grocery store, to do this, to buy me this, buy me that. Oh, I need a shirt for when I come up next time. Can you buy it for me? See, that never happened to me because I wouldn't allow it. I remember there was a time when Dominic came out in the Hamburg Fieldhouse, and he said to me, he used to call me kid all the time. Hey, kid. And I said, why? He goes, go get me a cup of coffee. I said, no. I said, first of all, you ask me nice, number one. I said, number two, you better cough up some money, and you better buy me one. And he did. And, it wasn't like that. Like, we had, back then, there was a girl who always took pictures, and she got a limo for one of the wrestlers, and this one bought them champagne and did no, I never did that. Never would. Never. Even when I was dating wrestlers, never would I ever do anything like that. And they knew, what I'm saying? They knew if you were going to be around me, you had to show me the same respect I was willing to show you.
Right.
And that was generosity, kindness, respect. It was never like what people think. You know what I mean? Some of the girls, yeah, it was. I never allowed that. And I think that was a good reason, or a main reason, why I was able to be friends with so many of them. Like Davey O'Hannon. He and I know his wife. I knew Kathy before they even got married. We're such good friends, though. You know what I mean? It's like we talk all the time. And like still to this day, like Tom Brandy, like people like that. I talked to, you remember Steve King in the WWF a long time ago?
No.
Okay, well, he was a up and comer. He, God bless him. He passed away at a very young age. He was married to my friend Debbie. Okay. And their last name was really Rivera. It wasn't King. King. Well, anyway, they had two little girls, beautiful little girls, and the one little girl that they had grew up to be Elektra Lopez.
Okay.
And beyond proud of her. And these are the things that stay with you. You know what I mean? Sure. Like with the older wrestlers, like Davey said, Johnny Rods asked about you, Lanny Poffo, and blah, blah, blah. And then I got a hold of Manny Fernandez. He's going to be on my podcast. And, he was like, oh, my God, Carmela.
How's he doing?
He's great. God bless him. Last time I talked to him on the phone, he was having a nice little barbecue in his yard. And he was having a good time. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said,
one of the craziest guys I ever worked
to show. You know what? But he's a nice man. How about that?
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And that's how we grew up. That's how I grew up in wrestling. And my brother was one of the photographers. He was a photographer at the time, actually before Cornette, Paul Heyman, around all, but he didn't push it because he decided he wanted to go another way, went to college for psychology, blah, blah, blah. But, he got very involved, but he didn't get a permanent, thing that he wanted to do
Right.
with wrestling. So, that was his thing. But, and then then the thing with Joel came along, I'm sure you know how we met.
Well, all right, let's get it before we get into that. But I think
Okay.
the key word you said there, and honestly, and I've said this many times for myself, the biggest thing I feel the wrestling business taught me was respect. And I think the fact that you said that, like, I think because you were able to gain the boys' respect speaks volumes. Where they didn't take advantage of you, they treated you like one of them. You were an equal.
Yep. And they were very kind. They really were. Again, understand, like I said, it was in that back then, it was so difficult to be on a respect level because of what everybody else was doing. So it was kind of like they weren't used to being said no to,
Right.
So like when some of them came to my house, I'd have like one time I had like 15 wrestlers at my house, and I had at the time this huge dining room table, made a ton of dinner, all right, and a couple of them were like, we're going to go out a little bit and walk around. I said, all right, go ahead. Then I found out they were outside smoking pot. So I went, and I said to Paul, I said, no, this isn't going to happen. I have a little girl. So I went outside and I said, now here's the deal. You get rid of that right now, or you give it to me, and I'll either hold it for you or it's going to go in the trash, or you leave, take a bus, take a cab, whatever. You will not be in my house under those circumstances ever. And they did. They got rid of it. And because they were staying there, they had nowhere else to go. So
wow.
But but that was it. I wasn't taking it. I wasn't doing that, especially not with a child in my house. You do what you want to do in your own time, not on mine. And like I said, you have to be strong in that regard, especially when you're dealing with a group of mostly men who are used to getting their own way all the time. It wasn't easy, but it was wonderful. We had the best times. We've had so many good times. The practical jokes that we did with the food, the joking around. We would like watch videos together. Then my friends came over and we all got together. We used to play out in the yard, out my backyard. We used to play volleyball. It was mostly Dominic was there all the time. My friends were there. Dominic was there. Chief J Strongbow. Who else was there that day? I might have been Tom, I think. I don't know. We're all playing volleyball in my backyard. Just regular stuff, like regular people, And it was fun.
Who ate the most chicken cutlets?
Joel. Okay, let me explain something about the chicken cutlets. Honest to God, Bay, they're just chicken cutlets. There's nothing magical or spectacular about them. Joel just happened to like them, and I made them for him all the time. As a matter of fact, about a month ago, maybe, Jeannie and I went to his house, and I made them for him there. Yeah. And yeah, he seems to like them. My new kick is now chicken parmesan with the chicken cutlets, but parmesan, I make them like that, and it's really good. I think it's the Italian thing. I cook with they say that if you cook with love, it shows in the food. Okay, it does. I love
it's the
to
key
do
ingredient. Key ingredient. Again,
yep.
You gotta be Italian to understand.
Hey, I've done this ever since I was a child. My mother taught me, and I taught my children. By the time I was 2, 3 years old, I was putting my own laundry away. I was making my own sandwiches. We all did that stuff. But my mom taught me, and I used to say to my mom all the time, why do you put so much stuff in that food? So many bottles of this and that. And she used to say to me in Italian, it went something like this: più ci metti, più ci trovi. That means the more you put into it, the more you find, the more you get back. So she said, you want it to taste good. You can't just throw something together, put A, B, and C in it for a certain amount of time and end it. You have to love what you're doing. Yeah. And it shows, and it shows. Like for Christmas, I cook for 3 days before we eat. But it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding when people appreciate it.
So is it gravy or sauce?
Gravy.
I love you even more, Carm.
Gravy. It's been gravy for me since the day I was born. It's gravy.
Uh,
I get ribbed so much from people because of that, especially like my girlfriend's husbands or whatever. It's not. It's sauce. It comes in a jar. The jar says sauce. I said, I don't care what the jar says. It's gravy. It's red gravy. It's pasta gravy. It's gravy. And that's what I will always call it. You call it gravy too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So,
I'm happy with it.
So you end up, your man get married to Paul, and you have this meeting by chance with Joel Goodhart.
Okay. I believe, and I don't know if Joel will agree to this or not, because to be honest with you, I don't remember, but Joel became our insurance man.
Okay.
I believe it was through my accountant, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody told us about him. We called him. He came over.
Okay.
We started talking insurance and stuff like that. And then we realized that both of us liked wrestling. We just started talking about wrestling. And we became very friendly in time. Okay. And one day, we're all sitting there and Joel, Joel's mind. Joel is always trying to do something,
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah, all the time. So, we sat there talking around my kitchen table and, we're like, why don't we do something? And do something with wrestling and blah, blah, blah. We're like, yeah, all right, why not? So Joel came up with this thing where Paul and I were going to be 2/3 owner. Joel was going to be 1/3 owner. And we were just going to jump right in the middle of it, and just do it. There was a place up in Philadelphia that was called the I-95 Marketplace. Mm-hmm. And they had a little tiny, like 10 by 10 or 10 by 15 little spot,
Okay.
And we decided, let's buy some wrestling stuff and sell it, And at the time, we weren't allowed to use their real images and real names without permission.
Okay.
So we used to have, like, we had shirts made that said, like, I love Superfly, or Superstar rather, or yeah, Superfly. I love I don't know, the Giant. You can't name anybody. So we had them, but we sold them. But the thing that made us become more popular was Paul had the most amazing connections. Paul knew people from all over the world. And we got videos from all over the world. Okay. So we had this little video player with a TV outside, and we put on Japan.
So in other words, again, you guys not only set the tone for the whole wrestling business, but you guys started the tape trading business as well.
I guess. I don't know. Well, that's how it started, and we had people just coming up and sitting there, and we actually brought in business for the rest of the market, because everybody wanted to come and see our stuff. So they bought food and came over and sat down, and they, bought other stuff and came over and sat down. And people were so excited. We were only open 4 days a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that's where Jeannie came along. God bless her. She worked those 4 days for us every week. And that's how we started to really get more and more and more noticed, Then we had, I don't know who knew about it, or if we knew somebody or somebody just came. We wound up in local newspapers like several times. And yeah, and we wanted to make a T-shirt of some kind that had to do with just us, And I came up with this poem. I read a lot of poetry, so I came up with this poem, and it said, "I'm out of the closet, no longer meek. I'm finally admitting I'm a wrestling freak." And we put them on shirts, right? And they sold. They sold. And people were like, I think it was because people were never that close to anybody who was that involved in wrestling. I think it made people be like, wow, maybe talking to these people, we can, like, they're like a middleman, maybe we can learn more or know more about these wrestlers, So
even
we did
as
that.
mainstream as the business had become at that point, it was still kind of like taboo.
It wasn't easy. It really wasn't. Because we obviously had no help in any of this. Right. The only help we had was the connections that Paul had at the time that would send us the videos or send us some stuff or call us and tell us what the results were or whatever. Even the sheets weren't around, the letters and all that until Dave Meltzer was the first one. Okay.
Right.
I believe anyway. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. Now, Joel knows this part of the story way better than I do, but we were approached about going on to a local radio station in New Jersey.
Right.
We did that for a little while. There's a guy named Roger Crone who was friends with Joel. And, he said there was a place in Philly called WDVT. Would you do it? Blah, blah, blah. So we were like jumped out of our skin because we wanted to do it so badly,
Did you ever picture yourself doing anything like that?
No. I pictured myself being a hairdresser for the rest of my life. That's it. But we did it. We went there, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. We had so much fun, first of all. And secondly, there were so many people we got to see, so many people we got to meet. That got us right into the NWA. It got us. I mean, the WWE would never actually work with us. They were, they were pretty much tight from back then.
Did you guys approach them, or?
Well, we did, but because a lot of the things that were said on the radio show were anti-WWE,
right.
They didn't like it. Joel didn't like WWE, never did. He still doesn't. Okay.
Sure.
But I got into a big argument one time with Vince Jr. Okay. This was when Vince Jr. was just starting out. My mom had passed away, and we tried to get wrestlers to call her before she died.
Okay.
So, Ivan called Dominic, Tom, blah, blah, blah. All these people, even the people from Texas, we had Dick Murdoch at my house. We had Stan Hansen. We had, but Bruno never did. And my mother would lived for him. Okay. Couldn't get a hold of him. Didn't know how to get a hold of him. All right.
Yeah.
So we were going crazy. And I said to my dad, I said, the only way to get a hold of Bruno is to go through Vince, And there was no way to reach Vince. So Paul, again, my ex-husband, knew a man down on Diamond Row, I guess it is, down South Philly. There was a whole street of diamond stores, jewelry stores. They called it Diamond Row.
Tod Gordon.
No.
Before Tod Gordon.
Oh, way before. This man owned a jewelry store called Sherry's. Okay. And Paul was really good friends with him. He also sold tickets on the side for events.
Okay.
This man was friends with Vince Sr. So you see, it's like a little triangle here. Okay.
Sure.
Paul went to Sherry's and he told the guy, he said, look, blah, blah, blah. I need to get a hold of Bruno. My girlfriend's mom is dying, whatever. He contacted Vince Sr. Vince Sr. didn't take it that seriously. Never reached out to Bruno at that moment, And then time went on. My mom passed away. And then shortly after she passed away, he called my house. And I said, hello. And he said, can I speak to Celeste? And I got really nasty. And I said, then, yeah, you can speak to her. She's at the cemetery. I said, why don't you go there? And I hung up. And he was devastated. He had got so mad because he wasn't notified. Huh?
Did you know that was Bruno?
Oh, yeah, I knew it was Bruno.
Oh,
okay. Hell yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, So then we went, one day I went to, right after my mom passed away, I told Ivan, and I didn't want to do anything. I was losing my mind. And Ivan said, come on, just come out to Hamburg. Come out and stay with me. Come out, So I went out and I bumped into Junior. And I said exactly these words to him. I said, I need to talk to you. And he looked at me, he goes, you're not even supposed to be back here. I said, look, don't you tell me what to do. I said, I need to talk to you about something important, and I need you to give your father a message for me. And I lit into him about what happened with my mother. And I said to him, I don't know who you think you are. I said, but you're no different than I am. I said, you had no right. Tell your father, too, he had no right to not give Bruno that message. You're no better than I am, and you never will be. And he just looked at me. He actually didn't say anything. And I told him off, and I said, that's just wrong. The woman was dying, And that was my one regret, is that she never got to talk to Bruno before she passed away, because she idolized him. She loved him. So, and like I said, these are things that happen as you go along,
Yeah.
And so then we
started. Did you ever talk to Bruno after that?
Yes.
Happened?
Oh, yes, many times. We talked about it. We straightened it all out. Everything. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. And then the radio show progressed, and it was hard to get sponsors back then, because wrestling wasn't as popular as it is now.
Yeah.
And The only sponsors we could get was Joel's insurance business and my ex-husband's valve business. He used to buy and sell valves and pipes and fittings and all that. So, but we paid for everything, man. We paid through the nose. We really did. So blah, blah, blah. Time goes on. And then we got involved with the NWA. They were very kind. Now, here's where Joel's part is. This is where Joel has more exposure than we ever did as far as that goes. Joel is the forward guy. He's the, I'll do this. I'll talk. I'll set this up. I'll do this, blah, blah, blah. So go ahead, do it,
Sure.
I wrote the radio shows. I did all the background stuff. I wrote the radio shows word for word, typed them all up till 5 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and then we went to the station. Paul had all the connections. He knew all the wrestlers that I didn't know, and I knew the ones that he didn't know, from years ago.
Was Paul ever like on the show or a personality on the show? Or
no, he never wanted to be. He was in the background. He would like yell over and answer every once in a while, but he was always there. Yeah, he was always there. Anyway, so Joel was like the PR guy, I guess you would say,
Sure.
And everybody dealt with Joel. Joel set everything up. Joel did this, Joel did that, and then he'd come back and let us know what was going on. And then we would do our job, and then we all worked together. We did a couple shows in the NWA with them. We did some of our own. Then we branched off. I know he's going to say I'm doing this wrong, I think, but I don't know. But I know we had our own wrestling promotion called Ceroma, Ceroma.
Now, I heard you and Jeannie saying it. I never knew the name. Okay, so Ceroma. What does that mean?
Okay, the CE was for my daughter Celeste.
Okay.
The RO was for his son Ross, and the MA was for his son Mark. So Ceroma, that's what we named the federation. And then we had so many cool things. We had so many people come in and work for us. They were so nice. Everybody was like so sweet, and they were so willing to help us, So we put on a good few shows. We had personal appearances. One of the first personal appearances we had at our I-95 marketplace was Bruno Sammartino and Dominic DiNucci. We had J.J. Dillon. We had, I think, and again, please don't quote me on this because my mind, I don't remember everything, but I know we had J.J. Dillon. I'm not sure if he was with Flair or not. But I mean, we had lines and lines of people, and it was wonderful. And that's what everybody liked. Unfortunately, then as the years went on, making a very long story short, I had to leave the business because of my daughter and because, we were losing money hand over fist for this, but it was something that we loved. It was a passion. But it was a passion we couldn't afford, So then I sat with Joel and we talked about it, and we dissolved the partnership. We ended on good terms, nothing bad, And then Joel went on, God bless him. He picked up the shovel, as they say, and he ran with it. And he did good for himself.
So now this is where, and it's crazy because I've always heard your name. The crazy thing is, and like I regret not, like when I came into the business when I first found out about Rasslin Radio, it was summer of '90, and at that point you were already out.
Right.
But I had always heard your name, but I never knew you were out because I always heard your name.
Right. Okay.
And so to me, you were always still there. And I didn't know you were out. So it's still mind-boggling to me that you were out. Like, we just heard this tremendous, amazing story that, I mean, it's besides your children and Paul at this point in your life, the biggest thing in your life was professional wrestling.
It was.
It had to be. And I get it. I understand as a parent, but it still had to kill you inside to walk.
It did. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it was like a family member to me. Sure. Wrestling was my family growing up. It was always my family. That's all I knew. Okay. Because that's what my parents enjoyed. And we were always a part of it. And then as I grew older, it became a part of my life, Right. So yeah. And then when we stopped doing it, it broke my heart. I got to be honest with you. It broke my heart. I wanted to do it so badly. I wanted to stay with it. And I always felt like I felt bad for Paul. Not that Paul never cared, but I always felt bad that Paul was not always included in everything. Even though he didn't care, he was the silent partner, you know.
Right.
He didn't want to be in the forefront. I was upset because I felt like he wasn't given the recognition that he deserved, because 99% of what we did or who we knew was between mostly him later on in the years, and earlier it was me. Yeah. So that's why when this thing came up with the banner thing, okay.
Right.
And I thought to myself, wait a minute, you know, and I'm going to be honest, I was hurt, and I thought,
sure,
Paul's not even in this. Like, you know, what the hell? And then Joel, you know, I talked to Joel. That's one thing, thank God. Joel and I have had an incredible relationship over the past 40 years. I mean, you know, we practically raised our kids together. I mean, you know, and we fought like we were married, and that's no lie. Okay. Every time we're together, even now, even on the phone, we still fight all the time. But we talked about it. We were always able to talk to each other. And I said to him, like, what the hell? You know, and he said to me, Carmela, he said, look, he said, this is about what I did after we left, after we separated. I said, all right, I get that. I said, but just understand, I want to hear it from you. Okay. That he was a part of the whole thing. And, you know, then I had him on my show. And we talked about it. And, you know, he agreed 100% that, you know, Paul was definitely a huge part of everything. And matter of fact, Joel brought up the Attitude Era, that, you know, so many things that we had started, and then Joel picked it up after we parted ways, and he took it to another level. All right. With the blood and the guts and all this other stuff. And, you know, you're right. A lot of the stuff that we did or we imposed, we did so many things that are now being capitalized on today. Unfortunately, we didn't copyright anything. We didn't, you know, like, I don't know if Joel ever told you the story, but we had, we created a couple things to sell. One of them was the little belt for the children, you know, the little championship belt. Really? And we flew, we went into another organization to show them what we had. And, you know, they were real happy with that. And they were like, oh, can you leave it here? Let us see, you know, what we think about it. We'll let you know. Well, we left it there. And if I'm not mistaken, they never followed up with us, but yet they did it. So a lot of what you see in merch was started by us as well. And that's a whole nother cup of coffee. Okay. So that's another thing. Like, I know for a fact, and I've done the research. Even Guinness has done the research. I am the first woman in the world to ever have a talk show on the radio about professional wrestling.
Oh, I believe it.
But Guinness doesn't do firsts. I didn't know that.
Okay.
They do not do first of anything. They only do stuff that you can beat or you can do better than or whatever. So that's okay. I don't need that. I know what I know. You know what I mean? And, you know, if you watch or listen to the podcast, we've had people on that have agreed, you know, and said, you know, from the time when I was young and I was little, and, you know, this person, that person. It's a shame a lot of them are deceased now. But, you know, if they were alive right now, they would be telling you all the times we had. I mean, we had Stan Hansen and Dick Murdoch in the same house at the same time. And, you know, we were talking, and I was joking because I was like, I'm not a drinker. And I'm like, all I got to do is smell the cork and I get high, or, you know, whatever. And Bobby Duncan kept saying, come on, Carmel, drink. Just drink a little bit. Come on, Carmel, drink, you know. And it was so much fun. And the kids played with them. And, you know, it was ridiculous. And like when I met Mick Foley through Dominic. And, you know, Dominic loved Mick, always called him Mickey, loved him.
Yeah.
And when he introduced me to him, he said to Mick, you know, I told her you wouldn't like her, or you wouldn't want to meet her, but she insisted, you know. And Dominic was always like that. He's always ribbing, always, all the time. But I had the most fantastic life in wrestling. I would never give it up for anything, you know.
So, well, let me ask you this, because I've gone through my own personal things in life where I've walked away from the business a couple times. And when I actually, because believe it or not, as crazy as this is, Joel was like a beyond a mentor. He was like an idol to me, and he was like
Okay.
he was truly a father figure to me because
Okay.
losing my father very young, and Joel just from day one took a liking to me, and he went the extra. I always felt he went the extra mile with me from wrestling school and beyond. And even after he walked away from the business, I tracked his ass down. When I went into promoting in '94,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to call him and talk to him for advice on this. So I would always look to him for inspiration, advice, and craziness of this crazy business. But a couple times, and especially when I retired from the business
Mm-hmm.
of promoting in 2002, I, for the most part, stopped watching wrestling because it meant so much to me. Like, I couldn't watch it because I wanted to be involved. I wanted to
Right.
be there. So when you walked away for your children, and I've heard you on with Joel and your show, you stopped watching. You didn't see no tri-state shows. You didn't see ECW shows. Like, did you do the same thing? Did you just shut the TV off and go black with it? Like you couldn't look
No.
at it?
No.
You were
What
watching.
I watch to this day, I watch wrestling every single day. Every day
Really?
except for Thursday and Sunday. Yeah. Wrestling is in my life, okay? It's in my blood. It'll never leave me. I love wrestling. And I've wanted to do stuff since then, since I left. I never wanted to really leave. Like
Right.
Paul always says to me, I wanted to leave wrestling. You didn't want. I said, yeah, we had to. I was the one who wanted out. But no, the Joel and I talked about why I didn't go to his shows and I didn't go to the ECW shows down at the 2300 Arena.
Were you?
And
Were you watching ECW as it was happening and growing?
oh yeah. No, I was always around, but I wasn't actually there.
Okay, let's rewind. How about the radio? Were you listening to Joel's radio show after you walked away? Did you listen when he closed up shop?
Yes.
What did you think?
Well, you know what? To be very honest,
son of a bitch.
No. I figured it was going to happen sooner or later. Okay, I really did, because at the time, you have to understand something. There was no money to be made, really. Unfortunately, we lost a ton of money. Joel lost money. Okay, mm-hmm. So I think at that point, he will tell you he stopped doing the insurance business for a few years in order to devote it to wrestling, mm-hmm. and it choked him. It did. Yeah. I knew it was going to happen eventually, and I was kind of happy for him when he did quit, because I don't think any of us, none of the three of us, were appreciated enough. I don't think any of us got the recognition we should have gotten. I think if we were allowed to be involved like we wanted to be involved, things would have gone a whole different road. I really believe that. And I believe that wrestling, like a lot of other sports and businesses, is very cutthroat, very cutthroat. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, like, Carmela, I like your headphones. I like that color. Isn't that nice? Whatever. The next week, everybody else has one. And now yours looks stupid. You know what I mean? It's that mm-hmm. kind of thing. But mm-hmm. the wrestlers, some of the wrestlers are horrible people. Some of the wrestlers are total angels, And I knew that eventually he was going to have to give it up. He had 2 boys. Then he had a girl. You have 3 kids like that, and you're not dedicating your life to what you have to dedicate it to. It's going to eventually choke you. Sure. So no, I never had any hard feelings, no ill feel. I love Joel to this day. We say I love you to each other every time we hang up the phone. And if he forgets to say it to me, I call him back and I say, say it. You didn't say it. Yeah, I do. But no, we were always very close, always, and we still are. And I would rather have it that way forever. Because there was never any animosity between us, even through all the arguments we had. It never was any animosity at all. And I'm glad he did what he did, and he deserves this banner. He deserves the recognition that comes with it.
So let me explain this whole banner situation.
Okay.
So, being the longtime fan and person in the business, mm-hmm. like I've seen over the years a lot of the guys, a lot of the boys get these banners raised in the 2300 arena. And I was saying to myself, it struck me when I started doing this show, and I was interviewing Johnny and interviewing Tony. I'm like, and I'm the Italians are gonna come out now, Carm. What the fuck? Seriously, because Johnny, Tony, that man behind you, Larry Winters, DC Drake, and Joel. Those 5 guys, if it wasn't for those 5 guys, and honestly, like I've said, you as well and Paul, you guys set the tone for professional wrestling in the Philadelphia area. Now, again, I came in late to the party, so I knew Joel and what I knew. So and forgive me, I didn't know Paul. And like I said, I always heard your name, but I didn't know you.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
So I started trying to put this thing together, this back. Now, this is where, and I texted Joel last night or the night before, and I said, I'm going to go the fuck off because now I'm me. Right. And this is where I'm going to start going off. And I put out there, I will take bookings, and I'm going to go to fuck off on all my interviews that I'm being a guest on people's podcasts. Because here's the fact, okay? And tell me you would not be pissed off.
Okay.
So Joel wants to do a final show. He's gone out and been very vocal. He wants to do a farewell, true Tri-State Wrestling Alliance farewell, one and done show.
One and done, yep.
He's come to me with this, and it took a little while for him to sell me on it, but he sold me on it. So now I'm in. I'm with him. I'm helping him do this. So we have all these different angles that can culminate into a very magical, emotional night for the Tri-State Wrestling Alliance and everybody who's been involved through the years. Okay? Now, this is where I get bad news. Because we want to do it at the 2300 arena and have this banner raised as part of this event.
Right.
I have reached out to the 2300 arena multiple times. I've gotten a call back from Roger's secretary. Okay. 3 months ago, she called me back. Now, in the early 2000s, and even when ECW was running in the late 90s, early 2000s, to rent out the ECW arena at the time was $1,500.
Wow. That's nothing.
Okay. Roger's secretary called me back and said, oh, okay. And I explained to her, and she said, okay, the rent will be $9,500.
Yeah, Joel told me.
I went to Joel. I said, Joel, here's the situation. He said, fuck it. I don't care. We're doing it. I said, you're crazy. You are batshit crazy. I said, because you're going to lose money. He's like, I don't care. We're doing it. I said, okay, I'm with you. We're going to make this happen. I have called and left multiple messages for Roger. No response. Joel has called and left multiple messages for Roger. No response. When somebody's ready to hand you almost $10,000 fucking dollars, and you don't have the common courtesy of respect to return a call and say yes or no either way, I say fuck you. Okay? Now
I get it. I get it.
I'm furious. And I told Joel.
See, I didn't know all this. Joel didn't tell me all this. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This has been built the last couple of weeks. Like, he's been trying to calm me down. Joel, I love you, but I'm fucking furious. How dare you, Roger? How dare you? And
that's not good.
I'm coming there next month. I will go there and knock on the fucking door and say, fuck you. Because how dare you? It's just, all you got to do is give a call back, answer my email, and say yes or no. But when somebody's wanting to hand you $10,000 and you don't have the common courtesy, no, no. Fuck you, I'm me.
Well, let me tell you something, okay? First of all, I agree 100% with Joel
Calm me
doing
down,
this.
please.
All right, just listen for a second. I agree 100% with Joel doing this, and I offered to help him in any way I can. I will advertise also on my podcast. He was going to call the boys up this weekend, and we were going to get them all on my podcast, blah, blah, blah. I'll do whatever I can to help. Okay. I would do anything I could to help you guys out, okay?
Sure.
It's funny because in my lifetime, I have done things, and I'm gonna bang my desk here and thank God, good luck, whatever. I've been able to get a lot of things done that I didn't think I could. My friends and my kids call me the Kraken, because they're like, oh, don't get the Kraken pissed off, I think the way you're telling me this, part of me is thinking maybe it's not really $9,500 to rent the place. Maybe they just said that to throw you off and say, oh, screw it, we don't have the money. But now that you're coming up with the money,
I said that to Joel.
You got them by the rock and a hard place.
When she first told me, I said to Joel, I think she's full of shit. I don't think it's really $9,500. I think she's trying to call our bluff.
They don't want you now to find out that it's really not $9,500, and for them to take $9,500 would be illegal. So that is the predicament that you're in. So what I could do, if you want me to, I could call, not say anything about you or Joel, and just say, I need to know what it would cost. I want to do like my daughter's school, let's say, maybe wants to do a graduation there, and I'm trying to scope out things, whatever. Come up with something stupid just to see if I can get a price and see what that price is. I mean, I'd be willing to, like I said, I'd do anything for you guys. I'd be willing to do that if you wanted me to, just to see what the pricing is, because it's not fair and it's not right. That's discriminatory in any way you look at it. There have been so many wrestling matches there. There have been, a couple of years ago, I went to a con. There's been cons there, I mean, they rented the place, and the people that have rented them for cons, I don't think have $10,000 to put out, So I don't think that is the real price.
To put $10,000 out would make it almost nearly impossible to make a profit.
That's
because
why
then
they
you
did
have
it.
to book. You have to book talent and licenses and insurance and sound. There's so many other factors that I don't.
But I think Joel deserves it. I think he should do it. I think he deserves it. I think it's been a long time coming. And this is like the reason I got into doing podcasts. A while ago, somebody randomly contacted me on Messenger and said, "Are you the Carmela?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, people have actually wanted to buy the radio tapes. I've had them sitting right here under my bureau. Yeah, under my bureau for 40 years. Somebody offered me a great deal of money for them, and I said no. I didn't want nobody touching them. Okay. Which I think was a little stupid now that I think about it. But this guy said to me, I will digitalize them. I will sign anything. And we did. We put together a contract. He was going to take the tapes, digitalize them, and give them back to me, or we were going to raise a Kraken, And we did that. And he did it for me. And he said to me, the thing that made my head spin a little was he said to me, wouldn't you want to leave a legacy for your children? I have nothing of my mother. I have a few pictures, but I have no voice. My mother was a singer. Yeah, she was a singer, and I have not one record of her, not one voice. And I thought to myself, yeah, I would be on here forever, and my kids could just look me up, and they could hear me. They could see me being alive, I mean, I think, and that kind of just, hit me. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to do it. I don't care about money or anything like that. I just want to do it. And that's how it started. And then Brian Trammell, God bless him, he was part of our fan club, and he helped us put it together, and he's the producer. He was supposed to only help us out for like 12 weeks, but, he said he liked it, so he was hanging around. So I said, fine, hang around as long as you want. I don't care. And I'd like to get sponsors for the show, but I'm not going to, break my neck over it. Like I said, this is fun for me. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm not competing with anybody. I just want to do it. And the picture behind me, by the way, of Larry, the reason I have that still up, they suggested I keep it there. He's holding my little girl. So that's proof that I've known him for 40 years. That's at my house. And if you look at the background, the blinds and all that, that is the same house that you'll see the picture of Ivan and I in that household and my daughter, same thing. So that's proof that wrestlers have been at my house. You know what I mean? And I don't think I have to prove it.
Are your kids wrestling fans?
No.
do they think mom's crazy? Like, what is the fascination with the wrestling thing?
Well, my youngest daughter, okay, she was into wrestling a while ago and she loved it. But you know, when you have kids, like my youngest daughter's the only one that doesn't think I'm too old to do this, you know. A lot of times, you know, your kids want you to be the quote unquote mom forever. You know what I mean? It's like, mom doesn't do this. You know, you're 67 years old, mom. What are you doing? You know, and I don't care. I'm not hurting anybody. I like it. It's something I like, and it's something I want to do. That's all.
Yeah.
And it rekindles some of the friendships. It rekindles that feeling. It rekindles the love, you know. And I wouldn't give it up for all the tea in China. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you saw this podcast. I do want to say something. We had our Dominic tribute. We had Dominic's daughter on. We had Mick Foley. We had Dave Yohannan, and we had Cody Michaels. And it's funny because when I was calling everybody to get it set up, I called Cody, and Mick had said to me, you know, call Cody, blah, blah, blah. He was really close to Dominic. I said, all right. So I called Cody, and I said, hey, Cody, this is Carmela. He goes, no, it's not. I said, yeah, it is. It's Carmela. And he goes, no. This is not Carmela. This is Godmother. And I said, oh, my God, because Dominic always left the last A off my name, Italian. He called me Godmother. And that's what Cody calls me now, Godmother, all the time, and we laugh about it. During the podcast, it came up a few times. But these are memories that I love. These are memories that I want to rekindle. I want to remember them. You know, my time raising my children is over. They have their own lives. You know, I want to be able to do something other than work for the rest of my life. I just enjoy doing this. You know, and God bless Jeannie. She's a saint. That girl has been with me since she was 17, 18 years old. And everybody and their mother has lived with me at one time. So, you know, my house was always open to everybody. And we have there's so many stories. And that's why my podcast is predominantly based on stories. Because I think people like hearing that. They like hearing that wrestlers are human. You know, you can't get that today. Tell me what regular person is going to be able to get on podcast, a regular person, and say, oh, Roman Reigns was at my house last night and he played Barbies with my kids, you know? Nobody, exactly. Unless you are maybe one of the Uso brothers, or maybe you are, you know, Roman Reigns' sister or something like that. But it's not going to be just a regular fan, you know, like I was. And I never saw myself as a fan. I always saw myself as part of it because I was. And I was grateful and I was happy. Dominic and Baron Cicluna were even helping me look for ghosts in my house one year. After my mom.
What's this?
When my mom passed away. And Joel can tell you he was there for a few things. A lot of weird things have happened to me since my mom passed away. You know, little spooky things. Sure. Dominic and Baron Cicluna were at my house one time for dinner. We were eating dinner. And all of a sudden the lights went out, you know. And Dominic was so worried. He worried about me so much. He's like, what's the matter? What the lights go out for? I said, I don't know. I said, I don't think there's anything wrong. We went down the basement. We checked the breakers, blah, blah, blah. And Dominic said, did you pay your bill? Do you need money? Did you pay? I said, no, the bill's paid. So he's looking around. What the hell, you know? And then he's playing with the switch. The light went back on. And then we're sitting down again. 2 minutes later, it goes off again. And he said, son of a bitch. He said, what's wrong here? And Baron and Dominic both looked at me and said, that's your mom. There's nothing wrong in your house. Your wires are all checked. That's her saying she's still around and you better take care of my daughter. You know, and we laughed, and it never happened again after that. Never happened again. One day I'll let Joel tell you what he saw happen at my house a long time ago. And it just happened again. Same exact thing happened again last year with people in my house for dinner. I still have people at my house for dinner. You want to come? You can come too.
Absolutely. You know I'm coming.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, Joel was saying something to me today, I think, or yesterday. He wants to have a dinner at his house when he gets all the guys over there to prepare for this event that he wants to do. And he's like, you come over and you're going to cook. I said, oh, sure. All right. I'll just come over and cook, and then I'll leave. You
cooking.
Yeah.
How about that?
He said, you come over and cook, and then and you can leave, you know. But I think, and I would love to do it, you know. I mean, I'm older now. I have some aches and pains like everybody does, you know. but I still love to do it. I absolutely love to do it. I love to do everything I did. And I love being a part of wrestling. And I love anything I can do to promote anybody else that can do anything in wrestling. Like I would do it. I just love it. I love everything about it. I don't like how people get treated. I don't like how the fans get treated. I don't. Because it's like the WWE universe. It's a building full of people. Those wrestlers and those people don't know who they are. When I was going wrestling, Ivan used to come in the ring at a taping, and he would point to me, and he'd go, "Oh, Carmela," and right on TV. You know how many times he got in trouble from Vince because he mentioned my name on TV. You don't see that anymore today.
Okay, Vince Jr. and Senior. Besides that one incident with Bruno, did you have any other meetings with them? Situations with them?
When Joel and I separated, believe it or not, out of the blue, somebody from WWE contacted me, just like that, and they asked me if I wanted to work for them, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not, But what they wanted me to do is they wanted me to be a snitch. In other words, they wanted me to go to the shows. They would give me free tickets. I'd go to the shows, and anything, because they knew I knew so much about the business, right. Anything that wasn't presented properly, like anything that was an overkill, any of the moves that weren't right, anytime you could tell that the wrestlers were talking to each other, anytime a bump didn't go over well, anytime there was any, they told me I could get in the back. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I am not going to be a snitch. I never did it.
They wanted you to be a snitch on their own shows? Or
on the wrestlers.
Any shows?
On the wrestlers.
Really?
Their own wrestlers. Yeah, they wanted me to go to the matches and then report to them, because I guess they probably figured they wouldn't tell them themselves. So they wanted me to go to the matches and report to them what went wrong that I could spot because I knew so much about it. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. 2 tickets isn't enough for me to do that. No. I never had another meeting with him after that. That was the only one I had, and I'm sure he wouldn't want to meet with me anyway, after that. But
what's your thoughts on Vince and everything over the years, especially all the turmoil that's come out?
Well, let me tell you something, okay? From what I remember and from what I was told by a lot of the wrestlers and from what I experienced myself with the wrestlers, I do not find any of the stuff that's happening as a surprise. I do not. No, I do not. You have to understand something too. I don't know if you've gone this far back, but I used to be there with Junior and Mel Phillips and Pat Patterson, and I was there. I was there for a lot. I was there when Jimmy Snuka's girlfriend died, okay? I was there for a lot. And no, none of this surprises me at all. None of it does. And I feel sad. I feel sad because I feel like the wrestlers are being treated much better now than they ever were with Vince as far as so many things. And you can see they're happier. You could really see it.
Yeah.
Now they get a week off at Christmas time. They get to go home for graduations and birthdays and things like that. Never. This is how a lot of them got addicted to drugs too, because no matter how much you were hurt, you still give them pills. Take pills, you'll be better. Give them cortisone, do this, and then put them in the ring. That's horrible, horrible. And now at least they can go to the doctors. They can get surgeries. They're out for a few months. Oh, well, it's like Jimmy Uso. Apparently he's out for real, At least they have the opportunity now to get the good medical treatment that they need. That's a horrible way to run an organization. And it was strictly based on just the money. That was it.
Well, even the man behind you, he was my main teacher in wrestling school.
Was he? Yeah.
And, I'll never forget. I can literally still picture it clear as day. Like, he sat us down in the ring one night, and he said, you guys are coming along, and I need to educate you about this and tell you that if you guys decide that you want to go the route and go do jobs for Vince and WWF at the time, this is what is most likely going to be happening in proposition to you. And he warned us about Pat Patterson, and he said, look, I'm just warning you. If it's your decision you want to, that's on you. But I'm just warning you. Be prepared because you will be propositioned. You know,
Exactly.
and I'm a 20-year-old kid, and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is going on? Like, people know this is going on, and nobody's doing anything.
That's what I can't get past. That's what I can't get past.
Yeah.
To me, and again, with my personality, okay, I will always find my way. One way or another, I will always find my way. I am not going to compromise myself just because of money. Yeah, when it comes to children, if you are broke and you have children, there's things I've done for my children that I did because I had to do. When I was my second marriage, I was alone. I was mom and dad all the time. I worked 3 jobs for 30 years to take care of my kids. So, yeah, you do what you have to do, but
Sure.
you can't do what you have to do and lose your self-respect, your self-worth, your self-confidence. You can't do that, all right? And there were things going on, like you said, and how do you not say something? How do you not do something? How do you not? I don't understand that. I really don't. I mean, it's like, well, yeah, but I'll lose my job. Well, I could lose my job at work if I, am involved in something that's wrong too. But if I see something wrong happening, damn straight, I'm going to say something. I don't care. That's bull. And I feel bad for the wrestlers. Like I said, I was there. I was there for a lot of it. I've seen what the wrestlers can do when they're pissed off. Mm-hmm. I've seen what they are capable of. I have been there. I have seen them. Like I said, we had this big thing with Buddy Rogers too. I mean, we were so close and friendly with Buddy Rogers. Paul and we bought his Lincoln Continental. It was the best car I ever had in my life. And we went to dinner. We did this, but he took care of Snuka. And I saw Snuka on days that you wouldn't want to see Snuka, And there was a lot that we saw back then, a lot. And that's why now, like, listening to this stuff doesn't surprise me at all, not at all. And
I can't believe it took this long for this stuff to come out.
I think, honestly, and this is just what I think, if this stuff wasn't going on with WWE being sold and revamped and all that stuff, it may not still have come out.
I agree.
If Vince was still involved heavy, I mean, he may still be talking to somebody. I don't know. But if he was still involved heavy, none of this would have came out. I don't believe it ever would. And it's a shame because sometimes, people feel like they have to do things to help the people in their families, to do this, to do that, to make a future for their children. I say, if you're going to compromise all your principles, find another way to make a future for your children. I did, and it wasn't easy. Trust me, I'm suffering for it now in a lot of ways, but to me, it was worth it rather than sell my soul. And that's pretty much what it's like. You're selling your soul.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So it is what it is. But I wanted to ask you real quick too, before we end this thing or whenever it's over. I would like to have you on my show as part of the thing Joel's doing as well. I did talk to Joel about it. And once we get all the guys together, we're going to pair everybody up. And then I want to try at one point to have a big screen and have everybody on if I can do it. So
absolutely.
But we'll keep in touch. And again, I want to apologize to you again publicly because of my rash judgment on that banner thing. And you had asked me before about coming on your podcast, and I denied it. I said no, thank you, because again, I was hurt and I was wrong, and I apologize for that. I just wanted you to understand what I meant and why I said it.
I totally get it. And no need to apologize. I totally get it. Believe me. Trust me.
Well,
and I'm having an absolute ball tonight.
I am too. This is so fun. I got to be honest. I was a little nervous coming on. I was like, wow, I don't know. I haven't been interviewed since Brian Trammell interviewed me like 4 or 5 years ago, So I'm usually doing the interviews now. But this was great. I love it. Yeah. I absolutely love it. And I hope you get a lot of people that will watch it and who have comments to make and whatever. And I hope everybody still watches my podcast as well.
Yeah, we're going to promote that as well. And of course, we have Jeannie's here.
Jeannie's there. I love her.
How is she doing? I saw she took
She had a fall the other day. Yeah, she took a bump. Poor girl. right after our podcast, she was going to a wrestling show, an outdoor one. She was promoting the hell out of independence. She loves independence, and she's right, very right with what she said. But she took a little spill, and she hurt, like she scratched up her one leg, but the other leg is in kind of like an air cast. So I asked her today how she was. She said she has less pain today than yesterday. But I asked her if she needed anything. She said no, thank you. Her son, God bless him, did a lot for her. And Jeannie is a saint. Jeannie is a saint. And I got to be honest with you, a lot of the stuff that we did and a lot of what I'm doing right now wouldn't be possible without her. And that is the God's honest truth. And as far as my podcast, Brian Trammell, I will love you till the day I die. Because, I don't care. I will give credit where credit's due. If I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. End of story, But that girl is a saint. She really is. And I love her to death.
I heard you saying it on your show yesterday, where you said Joe will call me and correct me. So
yeah, he always does.
Who will he call first tonight? You or me?
Well, it depends. It depends what he wants to say. Okay, if he wants to tell me I'm wrong about something, or if he wants to say I did this wrong, or if he wants to criticize me for something, he'll call me before he calls you. If he's not pissed off at me, he'll call you first. I guarantee it right now. Because every time he's like, well, you shouldn't say this. And you said this too many times. And I'm like, shut up. Just shut up. Okay. But yeah, he does that all the time. So probably if he liked tonight's show, he'll call you first.
Oh,
I'm going to give those odds. Oh, Jeannie. She's a doll. I love that girl. I really do. She's wonderful. She's a sweet girl.
So, all right. So I gotta ask this. So, as ECW was happening, were you watching the whole rise of it?
Yes, I was watching. I just didn't go to the shows, but I was aware of everything.
What was your thoughts on ECW as it was?
I thought it was awesome. I thought it was great, and because when we did our own shows as Seroma, okay, we often discussed it. So I knew, in my head, I knew what route Joel was going to take. We talked about the blood and the guts, and because we did this match with Abdullah the Butcher, and it was horrific, but it was excellent. It was amazing, And we started to go down that route before Joel broke off and went his own way. So I wasn't surprised, but I was happy. I was happy for him, and I left him alone. I didn't say anything or do anything or show up. I didn't want to. What's the right words? I didn't want to seem like I was stepping on his territory, let's say. You know what I mean? Let him do what he's doing. Let him do what he's whatever. We'll get together at some point, and we did. It's something he needed to do.
Were you in contact with Joel at all during those years, or did you just?
We didn't talk for a few years. Like I said, I backed away completely because I wanted to just see what he did. I wanted to let him do what he was going to do, and then we kind of reconnected again. And then we started talking again, and we bumped into each other at cons and stuff like that. And then we got closer again as time went on. But again, there was never animosity between us that I'm aware of anyway. We never had, and all the times we argued, we argued because we loved each other. We argued because we were always together. We argued because we were he was like my wrestling husband, but that's it. There's always I talk to him now almost every single day. I check on him, talk to him. He'll call me back. We argue still, say I love you and hang up, but it's fun. It's good. He's a good guy. He really is. And he gets to see his grandbaby soon. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Very excited. I wish I could be there because he's beside himself happy. And he should be. It's great.
I was shocked when I got that text the other day. I'm a grandfather.
Yes, he's so excited.
Yeah.
And, how could you not be? Come on. The baby, and I think the baby looks like him. I do. I really do.
Yeah.
I didn't say it to him yet, so Joel, I do think it looks like you. Yeah. And there's my little girl from 40 years ago. 40 years that picture is. God bless. And Larry Winters, we're going to do a tribute show to Larry Winters, too. Did I tell you that, or did you hear that yet on the podcast?
I think I did hear it. Yeah,
we're going to do a tribute show to Larry because Larry's another one who never, ever got the recognition he should have gotten. Ever.
Totally.
No.
And that was the whole point of the banner was those guys. It just irks me to no end. I hear all the ECW stuff, and even like being part of, ECW in the Eastern era and then in the Extreme era. It was like in the like, and I've said this to Johnny and Tony when I interviewed them. Like when I went back and became a Dudley, and I'm seeing, like at that point Larry was already out of the picture in Extreme, but Johnny and Tony were still hanging around, and it was tough for me. It really it was hurting me, so I can't imagine what those guys were feeling as I'm seeing these two guys who at one point were my teachers after Larry was out with a broken ankle, and I looked up to these guys and idolized these guys, and I was watching them being treated like shit. I mean, they were just truly being treated like shit and pushed aside, and it was killing. And I couldn't believe the way these guys were being treated. Because I knew what they did for the scene and for Philadelphia. And to watch what was happening to them, it just drove me insane. And that was like a whole point of this whole idea of the battle. Like I felt, those four guys and Joel deserve some type of lasting recognition. People come from around the world to go to this arena for these conventions every few months, and they need to see their names hanging up there with everybody else.
You know what I would suggest to you that you could do? Why don't you talk to one of the people that has rented it for a con? Ask how much they paid to rent it.
That's what we're going to do. Joel's already made the call.
That's what I would do. Yep, that's what I would do. And I was saying yesterday on my podcast that again, that's why I like doing these shows, because people don't know. They don't realize, if you're not in it, what these wrestlers actually go through with how they're treated. And like I said yesterday, I said, how many times, like Becky Lynch wrestled at WrestleMania with 102 fever. Nobody knew that, okay? How many times a wrestler's walking out and their little kid might have fallen down in the back, is bleeding to death, whatever, and there's people around, they're calling the ambulance, but he still has to come out and wrestle and pretend to be a heel or a baby face and do all his shtick like he's supposed to. I said Will Ospreay on AEW was there Wednesday night for Dynamite. Tuesday, his grandmother died. Okay.
Oh,
and, and you come out and you still have to smile and jump on the rope and, and I like Will Ospreay. I think he's excellent.
He's amazing to watch. I love watching him.
I like him a lot. Never heard of him before he came to AEW, but I like him a lot. I really do. Every time he comes on TV now, my daughter said, "Oh, there's your boy." I said, "Yeah, I would love to talk to him." And he's great. He's great at what he does. He's very, very nice, from what I understand, very respectful. But like I said, people who don't know, like wrestling fans don't know, any fan, what a wrestler or an entertainer or a sports player or whatever goes through before they walk out of that door. God forbid, when somebody, that's why they have Gorilla, because you walk from where you are, blood and guts and tears, you walk into Gorilla, you got to pull yourself together before you walk out of that room. And you have to be a whole nother person. Doesn't matter, what happened to you. You still have to go out and you still have to do what you have to do. And I respect them for that. That I really respect them for, because that's not easy.
What do you think of the business now? When you watch it, you're a 50-plus year wrestling fan, and you've seen it from the true pureness of professional wrestling to what it is now. And it's, let's face it, it's completely different. It's so, like, when I watch it now, I'm like, I can't believe just how mainstream, and it's almost like watching professional football. It's it's just mainstream now.
Yeah, but it's also, to me, it's also like watching one of those, like RoboCop or something, because they're so organized. You know what I mean? They practice so much. They know too much about what they're doing. They come out, it's A, B, C, and then we're out of here. Like Davey O'Hannon was saying in one of my podcasts, he said, we a lot of times went into the ring and didn't know how to wrestle, didn't know what to do, just do it. We didn't talk about all that stuff. We talked real fast about, oh, let's finish, or I'm winning, you're winning. But it's nothing like now. Now they literally, and I know this for a fact, they literally have it down to each move, okay? Because they repeat the same exact move in every town that they go to.
Mhm.
There was a thing I read one time that when Hulk Hogan fought Andre, okay, Hulk Hogan had written down 3 pages of bumps, moves, turns, holds, everything for him and Andre to do during the match. And then he didn't have the finish. So he kept saying to Andre, what about the finish? What is the finish? What is the finish? Andre said to him, I'll tell you what the finish is when it's going to happen. And, nobody messed around with Andre. Are you kidding me?
Sure.
Andre said what Andre said. That was the name of that tune. All right. But Andre was also the type of person. I think I would have been like Andre if I was a man, because he was the type of person. He didn't take any crap from anybody. So if he didn't like you and he went in that ring, he wasn't going to do anything to put you over.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, he would do whatever he could to drag you down. He would go in there and he'd stand there and he wouldn't fall for you. He wouldn't take a bump for you. He wouldn't do anything. He would just say, oh, well, now you know what it's like. Now you disrespected me. So now this is my turn to disrespect you in front of people. I would do that.
It's funny. I in one of the early ECW tapings, myself and my old partner, we wrestled Snuka and Morocco when they teamed them up. And I'm a year in the business, greener than grass. And we see the lineup on the wall, and I'm like, oh, shit. Okay. And we go over to Jimmy and Don. We're like, all right, so what are we doing? They're like, don't worry, brother. Don't worry. We'll talk about it. This was like 2 hours before the show. Okay. Hour later, we go back over to them. What are we going to do? Don't worry, brother. Don't worry. I'm like, okay. We're in gorilla position. Behind the curtain, ready to go out. What are we doing? Don't worry, brother. Don't worry.
God.
We got you. I said, oh, boy, this is not going to be good. Bell rings. They jumped us. And I start fighting back, and I'm teamed up with Snuka. Snuka grabs me by the head. He goes, you dumb motherfucker. I said, what? I'm dead. He's going to kill me in the ring. I'm dead.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's funny. That is funny. Yeah, but see, that's like Davey said. A lot of that was the way it was, and you just jumped in. You weren't told what to do. But another thing I think is different today than it was years ago, too. Like Ric Flair is an example. As popular and as big as he was, he would walk into the dressing room to all the new guys especially and shake their hand and say, hi, I'm Ric Flair. I don't know that they do that anymore. I really don't think that they, with new people that come in, I don't know for sure that they do that anymore. I'll tell you what, the thing is, though, a lot of the people that are coming into NXT are more, in my opinion, are more gymnasts than they are wrestlers.
Yeah.
They, the high flying and the jumping and all that is fine. But see, I'm going to compare something here now. You got Kevin Owens jumping off of huge buildings and the Empire State Building to land on somebody. Okay. You got Seth Rollins did a lot of the same stuff. There's a lot of them that jump over like on high things because like even Logan Paul, who I do not like, but he's a good wrestler. You got to give the guy props. All right.
Absolutely.
And, but you have to understand something. The high jumps are not what makes the match. Like, see, Will Ospreay, I don't know if you saw last night on Collision. At the end, he had a big fight with Swerve Strickland, and they were yelling back and forth and whatever, and the guys came in and separated him, and he was like, I'm fine, I'm calm. All of a sudden, when nobody was looking, he just dove up in the air, and he hit Swerve in the head with what they call the hidden blade and put him right down. I thought that was really exciting. That was cool. It wasn't like it's so easy for somebody to climb up a rope and jump. That's what they do a lot of. They jump, they climb the rope, they jump. But I mean, he can take somebody and twist them into a pretzel, and then jump with them. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Right.
But I think that the gymnastics has become more than the actual wrestling. That I'm not a big fan of, I mean, years ago was arm drag punch, arm drag kick. I didn't like that either. And then in the middle, I think the Attitude Era, was one of the best, personally. But I think today it's too predictable. It's too, There's too much with internet and stuff like that. You know too much. Years ago, you didn't know anything. Years ago, good guy to bad guy never even looked at each other outside of the building. Now it's different.
It is truly a whole nother world.
Yep, it is.
Dave Westwood. I can only imagine what TWA and Rasslin Radio would have been if social media were a thing back then. This is taking me back to when I was 20 years old.
Yeah. Could you imagine if we had social media back then? He's right. It would have been amazing. We would have, honest to God, we would have had our own federation. We would have been on top of the world, probably, or at least one of them.
It's crazy to think, like, so the Squared Circle Fan Club, was that going when you were still part of it?
Yes.
Okay.
It stayed even when I left. Joel kept, I think, pretty much everything. Yeah, when I left.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can only imagine if we were part of that era and if we had internet, it would be beyond. I don't know. Maybe we would have stalkers at our house. I don't know, but it was fun. It was so much fun, and I'm glad it was the way it was, though. I'm glad it wasn't with internet and stuff like that, because I think it would have been ruined.
Yeah.
To a point, like we wouldn't have had the beautiful relationships that we had with the wrestlers. It
was true, like, grassroots, organic type of thing that was built.
Yeah, it was great, and and it was because their family would call my house. The men would call their kids. It was just family. We were all family, like, all the time. Even David San Martino used to stay at my house, and so many people, like, I can't even think of all their names right now. I'd have to literally sit down and think about it. But we had a blast. We used to just do stuff together. It wasn't like, oh, I picked him up at the airport, we stopped to get a cup of coffee or dinner, and then I dropped him off. It wasn't like that. It was a real interaction, like real family. We had a ball all the time. It was great. And I got to give my mom credit for that. My mother was the one who pushed them to come over. We're going to have fun. I'll cook.
How did that whole thing happen? Like, how did your mom, like, gain the trust of these guys to say, oh, come over and eat?
Okay. When I told you in the beginning that it was, all right, this is how it happened. My mom and dad and I and my brother, we were all at the arena. Okay. And we were getting ready to leave. All right. So one of the, they weren't road agents back then. It was just one of the guys was asking people in the crowd, is there anybody here who can drive them to a train station? They needed a ride to a train station, blah, blah, blah. And my mother, and this is where I got my attitude from, my mother's like, why? Who want to go to a train station? What for? What are you going to go? And then she started talking Italian to Tony, and Tony's like, we don't know anybody here. We don't have any place to stay. We don't, so my mom and dad just said, well, now you do. So come over to my house and you stay there. They said, okay. My mom said, I'll cook. That's all that she had to say was, I'll cook. They said, okay. They were the first two who came with us to my house, stayed overnight at my house. We brought them to the next, wherever they had to go the next day, nearby, And I guess
was
word
this
of
in
mouth.
Philly or Jersey?
Philly. I'm a Philly girl. I was born and raised in Philly.
In South Philly or?
No, north, right by Temple Hospital.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so they must have told other guys, because it was never difficult for us to get anybody to come over.
I'm
Tony,
sure once that happened. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because they saved a ton of money. Are you kidding? We fed them. They slept at our house. But see, then in the long run, because, like I said, of the respect, they were so respectful. They wound up, like, buying food. They wound up taking us out to dinner. They wound up, they were so kind in the long run because they were so appreciative. They didn't take anything for granted back then, because they knew if we didn't do it for them, probably they'd have to be scrounging themselves to do it, and it is what it is. But I'm going to say we lucked out, because we were at the right place at the right time, said the right words to the right people. And that's how it worked, and I was forever grateful for that. And
who was your favorite when you were younger that came to stay at your house?
Oh, wow. Oh boy, my favorite I have to say was Dominic, because Dominic took such good care of me. It was a whole different level. It was a whole understanding that was so different than anybody else. Most of the time, when other wrestlers came and stayed, you know, we were friendly, we were family, blah, blah, blah. Like they helped us shovel snow. They did all kinds of stuff. But Dominic was like my dad. And, you know, I was very grateful to him. Ivan and I were extremely, extremely close. I was close to Bruno, David. I was close to, oh God, Tony Parisi, Gino Brito. I mean, we were close to a lot of them, a whole lot. But Dominic was the one who stuck out the most because, like I said, he was like my dad. He took care of me, you know. He always bragged about, you know, meeting me when I was 12 years old and still had snot running down my nose. That's what he told everybody all the time. She's a pain in the ass. He used to say she always had snot running down her nose. I said, thanks a lot. Now I'm 67 years old and I'm still got a runny nose, you know. But it's wonderful. It really is. He did so much for us. He really did. And he's another one who never got the recognition that he deserved. The accolades that man had in Australia and Japan and Canada were unbelievable. He should be in the Hall of Fame. He really should. And I think it's a complete and total horrible, horrible thing that he's not. And, you know, he never got the recognition he deserved. He was a genuinely kind, sweet man. So, you know, and it's sad. It's sad that he's gone now. And it's sad that sometimes they just wait until people die to do it. So they never get to see that, you know, they never get to enjoy it. But it is what it is, you know.
Sadly it is.
Yeah, it is. It's sad. But, you know, I'm having a blast here. You know, I really am. This is pretty cool. I enjoy this very much. I haven't been interviewed, like I said, for quite some time. And I'm trying not to say I want to be honest. I want to be honest with you. Joel yelled at me for that. He said, you know, you said, let me be honest about 5 times. I said, well, shut up. Let me be honest. Let me be honest, Joel. I said it again.
When you're saying it, that truly means you're being honest.
Yeah, I do that.
Joel's not Italian.
No, but you know what? He's Jewish, and that's almost the same thing.
Close.
We talked about that a lot. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost the same thing. And I think that's why we argue so much. I really do. Because we're so similar in nationality and in the way we think about things, and we know each other so well now that whatever wants to come out of our mouth just comes out, you know. And we talked about that actually not too long ago, and how similar the Jewish culture and the Italian culture is. It's crazy, you know, Jewish moms like Italian moms, you know, but he's not Italian. No, and it's a different thing. You Italian people are more, I think, loud and aggressive. You know, more to the point. You know I am. I mean, I'm loud, I'm aggressive, I'm bossy, clearly. I have a big mouth, you know, but I wouldn't give it up. I wouldn't give up for anything in the world. And I wouldn't give up again. I'm saying it. This is my 3rd time, Joel, I know. I wouldn't give up the life I had in the wrestling business for anything in the world. I wouldn't give it up.
So let me ask you this. I just watched SmackDown last night. Did you see the whole thing Friday with the Bloodline and Paulie?
Yeah, I don't know why Paulie's leaving for a while. He must have something going on. He's not going to be back for a while, they said, but that was good. I mean, I felt bad for him to a point. He took a good ass bump. He really did. He took that whole thing like a champ. And I'm thinking in my head, you know, I'm trying to put the scenario together. I'm thinking that somewhere between either SummerSlam and or WrestleMania, but I'm thinking closer to SummerSlam, Roman's going to come back. I'm hoping anyway, but
that probably makes more sense than bringing him back next week, Money in the Bank.
No, I don't think he's going to come back for that.
Build the heat up with
they need build up. Yeah. Plus, there's also, and I said yesterday, there's also another Samoan. His name is Hikuleo. He's another one of the family. I think he's another one of Haku's sons. He is a monster. He doing well in Japan. I don't know if he's going to come here, but that's what the rumor is. He's 6'8", and Yeah, and he may be another one of the bloodlines, so I don't know how that's going to work. But I'm thinking in my head, this is what I would do. When Roman comes back, he's going to have the Usos on his side, and he's going to probably have, a few other people from the family coming in. Might be a big bloodline battle. Who knows? I think that would be nice though, to have bloodline on both sides.
I think the Samoans just have their own federation. I mean, there's so many of them.
There really are. There's so many of them. And I got to tell you, Afa and Sika were two of the most incredible people I have ever met in my life. And Peter Maivia, I knew him very well. I met The Rock when he was 6 years old. There's little pictures you see of The Rock when he was real little. That's when I met him. And he wouldn't probably know me now from Adam. He wouldn't remember that. But we had so many fun times together. There was a place that we used to go to when we stayed over in the tapings were at the Ag Hall in Allentown, and then the next day they went over to Hamburg at the Field House. And in between, we would all stay over at the George Washington Motor Lodge. I cannot tell you the fun we used to have. And it would be Afa and Sika, and it would be Jimmy Snuka, and it would be whoever else was there that night. Tony Garea. I remember being friends with Tony Garea, Dean Ho. I mean, I'm really going back. But we used to have a ball, and that was what I loved so much, because there was no barriers, there was no taboo, there was none of that stuff. We just had a blast, we had fun, and at that moment we weren't fan and wrestler, we were friends, we were people, just people, and just having a blast and having a good time, and it was nice. And it's a shame it's not like that anymore, because you'll never be able to do that ever with today's wrestlers. It's a shame.
It just seems like such a different world now.
It is. It's a
just
very
watching it. Yeah.
Very different world. And it's funny because now if wrestlers come out at the end of the show and go around to the crowd and shake their hand and all that, that's such a novelty anymore. It's if they do it once in a while, the fans get so excited, that's so wonderful, or they don't ever do it at all, and the fans pay incredible amounts of money, to get nothing.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Did you know what the front rows were going for WrestleMania this year?
I'm scared to know.
16,000. I looked it up, and that's a lot of money to put out. These working people like me and you save money all year long for one big event, and you try. And then the prices they ask for at these cons before these big events, I think that takes a lot of nerve.
Honestly, I was saying, I really wanted to get up to Philly for the WrestleMania, thing for the 4 or 5 days. There was 50 something events in those 4 or 5 days going on. And it wasn't just because it was Philadelphia. This happens for all now. That's the thing for all these pay-per-views, or whatever they call them, PLEs.
Mm-hmm.
When they go to all these cities across the country, across the world. And I say to myself, because you see these thousands of people travel from all over the world, they come into this city, they take over the city, and they're all carrying their belts, and they're paying thousands of dollars for tickets and travel and food and expenses and merchandise. Am I doing something wrong in life? Like, what are these people doing?
I don't know. But you know what? I agree with you. And in my opinion, I think if somebody's coming that far, doing everything you said and paying out the butt for their tickets, I think that meeting the wrestler should be free. Okay? Never going to happen. But I think that it's going to be free. Now, like Jeannie, with the thing that Jeannie went to yesterday, she said it was an outdoor event. Okay. There was an outdoor event of wrestling. There's going to be food. There's going to be music. There's going to be all kinds of stuff going on. It was like an outdoor, not a carnival, but an outdoor, Woodstock, maybe a little tiny thing. But look at all that involved. For the tickets for the show were $5. Okay. And people don't realize that these men and women that are doing this, okay, are busting their asses for everybody, okay, and they're really busting their butts for everybody, all right? Mm-hmm. And they don't have a chance like these wrestlers do in WWE and AEW to practice and do this bump and do that bump and get this right and get that right. They're just doing it. But they had all this stuff available for these people. That's what the WWE should do, to give back. To me, having the people get a good show is a wonderful thing. But it's not, to me, it's not giving back. It's just not. Give something back to the people. Make at least one thing free. Let somebody just come in and see a wrestler, talk to them, shake their hands, and say, wow, man, I saw him for nothing, or I saw her for nothing. It was the best day of my life.
They're paying a friend of mine for WrestleMania. This guy I know, he was coming in from New York, and he would like sending me texts. He's like, oh, I'm meeting this one, I'm meeting that one, I'm meeting this one. I'm like, you're meeting them, but how much are you paying? He was paying
exactly
$250 a shot.
Exactly.
Like, you're paying $600-700.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's like when I went and I saw Ivan at that con, okay? I just walked right into the booth where he was, right behind the table with him. And, everybody's got their little person there watching them or whatever. So this guy's attempting to come up to me and tell me to get out of there. And I looked at him, I said, no. I said, don't even do it. And Ivan said to me, what's the matter? I said, he's going to make me leave. Because no, he's not. And he said, you're staying. And Jeannie took pictures of me and Ivan. She took video of me and Ivan, and we didn't pay a dime. And Ivan said to the kid himself, he said, this girl has never paid for anything in her life. And as long as it's me, she's not going to do it now. And we had a blast. We had a good time. He had to stop and go back and sign autographs and stuff, which was fine. And I didn't stay long. I didn't bother him long, but it made me feel good. Because as soon as he saw me, it was like, oh no, that's not going to happen. Not with her, and that made me feel good. It just did. Then I saw Billy Jack Haynes. God bless him. Mm-hmm. He breaks my heart. He really does. I knew him way back when a lot. And, I could cry when I think about it. He said to me when Jeannie and I were standing there, we were talking about something, and all he said to me was I kind? And I said, absolutely. He didn't remember hardly anything. And, he had a lot of mental illness, a lot. And
you could, with a lot of these guys, you could just see it in their face.
Oh, God, the stuff that they had to suffer through. And like I said, a lot of it was because they weren't allowed to be sick. They weren't allowed to, they had to take stuff to make them not feel the pain. And then, what happens when they leave and they get addicted to this stuff? Then what? Then where are you? And now they take different measures, of course, which, they should have done it then. Yeah. But it broke my heart when I looked at his face and he looked at me and I could see he was struggling to try to remember who I was. And that just literally broke my heart. It really did. I don't know. It hurts. It really does, because we were really good friends. And I didn't want to make him feel worse. But, it is what it is. I hated that. Everything was so different in the Big Vince Senior era. It was terrible how they were treated. It really was. And as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, Ivan quit. He retired when Junior took over. That's what made him retire. He got along real well with Big Vince. I call him Big Vince, with Vince Senior. But when Junior took over, he left. And a lot of people did, I think, back then. And Vince had a good perspective. I don't like how he went about it. I think he did the right thing by expanding and not just staying in territories. I think that was a good thing for the future. I don't care for how he did it. Privately, he kind of snuck in like a thief in the night kind of thing into these other territories, and he didn't do it the right way. He didn't confront anybody. He didn't talk to anybody. He just did it. He started putting shows in those other areas, like arbitrarily going against these other companies. And I don't think that was fair either. You want to promote yourself, you want to make yourself better, by all means, but do it the right way,
How was it? Because, you were there, way before the whole Hulk Hogan explosion of the business.
Mm-hmm.
How was it before, and then when that happened, how did that change for you?
It changed for me because a lot of what I was able to do changed. A lot of the rules changed. Um, Things changed because it started to get so popular when Hogan blew up, when that whole Hogan thing blew up. And that's when the restrictions came. That's when they started pushing the fans away. That's when they started, well, you can't do this anymore. You can't do that anymore. Nobody's allowed to come in the back. They even got to a point where they stopped girlfriends and wives from going in the back. Now they go because it's just family. Girlfriends, like, the girls that used to hang out with them years ago, that they don't do that anymore. But even the wives and all weren't allowed in the back anymore. They had to get a ticket. They had to sit in the ringside or whatever, and that was a big thing for me because everything changed. It got really, really, really monopolized. It got really all about money more than anything else, and that's when the people started. They loved Hogan. They came to him. And WWE capitalized on it and changed everything, and I didn't care for that at all because it wasn't home anymore. It wasn't like it was family anymore because so many things got too commercialized, and like I said, the fans just got pushed away. They really did. And I didn't like that at all. I just didn't. It was nice when we were doing what we were doing.
Any experiences or interactions with my favorite wrestler of that era, especially when I was a young kid, who ended up being a major influence for me, Adrian Adonis?
Never met the man. I liked him a lot. And I know Joel, obviously, I'm pretty sure he had him on a show or something. I never met the man. I really liked him a lot. He was good at what he did. I'm sorry about that. I really am, because I really would have loved to have met him. Never met him at all. I never even saw him wrestle in person.
Wow.
No, he was excellent. He really was, but I never, got to do that. I did travel a lot, with the guys, but he was just never one of the people that was in my range of where I was, I did a lot of traveling with Andre, and I loved Andre dearly, and the way talk about being treated badly, he broke my heart. He really did, with how horrible the fans were to him. I never realized that. When I was younger, I used to think, well, if you're a baby face, nobody's going to insult you, nobody's going to say anything mean to you, But that's so not how it is. I mean, everywhere he went, he was completely and totally ridiculed constantly by people. Constantly. And that, like I said, it just broke my heart. I don't know how he did it.
Do you think he was like a depressed person? Like,
absolutely.
Dealing with all he had to deal with?
Absolutely. You have to understand something. First of all, he lost his family. His father died. No, wait a minute. Andre died when he went to his father's funeral. So I was wrong about that.
Okay.
He had health issues back then. Like a lot of people who are really tall, have that acromegaly, and now it's operable. Back then, either it wasn't operable or they didn't know that it was operable. Right. And Andre had the same thing, and he suffered terribly. The pain, like I have arthritis, and I know how much that hurts. Mm-hmm. But he had such pain. I mean, I even said to him, a couple times, why? I said, don't you have enough money by now? But he had the little girl, and he had, all this stuff going on, and he was very depressed, which I think is what led him to do too much drinking. I really do. When I first met Andre, I took French in high school, and I used to write letters to him. We had a common place where we used to get mail sent, he and I. And I used to write him letters in French. And then he'd get the letter, and he'd call me on the phone 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And he would read the letter back to me, and he would tell me what I said wrong, or how I say this, or how I said. And I loved it. And that was a totally different Andre than the Andre that passed away. You know what I mean? He was so different, so very different.
Did you watch the documentary they did on him?
Yeah. Yep, that broke my heart too. It really did, because a lot of it was very true, And he had a sad life. He really did. He had a sad life, and you know, actually, his descent, his nationality was French, or no, Russian and Bulgarian. He wasn't even French.
Okay.
He was born in France, but his mother and father, their descent was Russian and Bulgarian, and he just had it so hard. I mean, he had it so hard. People making fun of him, and then when he did get drunk and he fell over or he passed out or whatever, that was like the hand of God to pick him up, to get him where he had to go. Sure. It was very difficult, very difficult. But on a happier note, though, when I was a kid, I used to sit in Haystacks Calhoun's truck with him and his dogs, and I used to feed them. Yep. He had these two beautiful black dogs he used to bring with him. He had like, it looked like a pickup truck with the little lid on it. I call it a lid. What is that thing that goes on top of a pickup truck?
Oh, the cab. Yeah, the cab.
Yeah. Well, I used to sit in there with him. He used to, and believe it or not, he always had this big metal tub, you know, and he'd fill it with water wherever he could get it, I guess from the arenas or whatever. And he had this ladle in it that he would drink out of, and then he put pour it into cups or bowls rather for his dogs. And then he had a lot of snacks and stuff with him. He always took his dogs with him. I used to sit in there and feed his dogs. That was like the coolest thing in the world. I loved it. It was great. And that's another thing most people don't know. And it made me feel so good. I loved it. And I also used to do their hair at the wrestling matches too. I used to cut their hair in the back outside. Whenever they needed a haircut, I'd bring my hair stuff with me. Especially downtown in Hamburg, we go outside behind the building and I do their hair. I never had to go to a barber. And matter of fact, one time at the Spectrum when Sting was wrestling, I was at home with my daughter getting ready to come, and Joel called me and he's like, Can you do Sting's hair? I'm like, yeah, why? What does he want? He goes, he needs it dyed. I said, oh, shit. He needs it dyed. And I was already dressed up to go. So I had to go get the bleach, blah, blah, blah. So I go there and it's when he had that blonde, short top here. And I got it and I did it, blah, 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 blah. I'm in a black dress, of course, and I did his hair and it turned out really nice. I reshaped it. I cut it. And Animal comes in the room. Animal was staying with him. And while he's waiting for the bleach to take effect, I'm like, oh my God, I had gotten so much of the dust on my dress. So it's me and Sting and Animal all had washcloths, and we're all going like this down my dress to try to get all the white stuff off. And like I said, that was cute. That was fun. It was cool. It's something that, again, most people don't ever know about wrestling, about wrestlers. And it was fun. That's what I said. That's why I never regret any of that. It was so much fun. It was a blast. We had so much fun.
Did you ever think about writing a book?
Here's the thing. I would absolutely love to write a book. I really would. I've actually even tried. But the problem is that it's so expensive to write a book. I cannot afford to write a book. It's that simple. I would love to write a book. I even got somebody who was willing to ghostwrite it for me. But they want so much money up front. And from what I understand, you have to give the publisher enough money to come up with enough copies to sell, at least in the beginning, And I don't have that kind of income. It's like I said, I've been mom and dad all my life, and it's been tough. So no, I would love to write a book. I could still write it and just leave it around my house. Maybe one day when I'm dead, somebody will pick it up and say, hey, I would love to write a book. I really would. I have so many things that I have never talked about in public that I could write in that book. There's so many things. Yeah, I would. So if anybody knows anything about writing a book that's not going to cost an arm and a leg, let me know.
You know what? Yeah, you got to say something to Joel, because I was talking to Joel with his book that he's working on.
Yeah, but you know what? I did talk to Joel about it. He's the one who told me. He said it's so expensive, and he said you have to come up with the money, for the initial sales and all that. He said to me, he said, I started writing my book, years and years ago. He said, it's still not, not sold, not published or anything like that.
Because that's his own lazy ass. I've been on his ass about that.
Well, but in all fairness, what publisher cares about my life? You know what I mean? What are they going to say? Oh, big deal. This lady is the first lady that had a radio show about wrestling, and this lady has all these stories, and it's all old stuff. Like, who's going to come to me and say, Carmela, I really love your stories. I think we should put them in a book. Nobody. And if I did write a book, I'd have to pay for the advertisement. I'd have to, it's not that easy what people think
I
about
know.
writing a book, Yeah, so one of these days, maybe, maybe somebody will say, come on, let's write a book.
Somebody out there's got to, fund this. Put this book together for her.
I love
Put
that.
this book together for me because I want to read these stories because I know there's a lot there she's not selling us.
Oh, there's a lot. I've had actually people say to me, I'd buy a book, and I thought, thank you so much, but there's a book. The book is in here, and if when I go, it's going to go with me if it doesn't get written down. So that's for sure. But I got a lot of stories that haven't been told yet. A lot.
I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure. Well, you got to just start like making little notes and jotting them down. Start piecing it all together.
But what do I do with them after I piece them all together? I mean, I don't want them to fall into the wrong hands. I'm very protective about my wrestling life, just like I am about my children. But like, what do? I write them all down. Somebody picks them up somewhere, somehow, and then it's like, they write the book. It's hard. It's really hard. I would absolutely love to write a book. But, it is what it is. And then, most of the people that I would write about are probably either deceased or God bless them close enough to it. And, it would just be my word. There's no way anybody could find out that what I'm saying is correct, but I know that I'm right. I know what I did and I know what I remember. It's my story. Exactly. Yeah. It's mine. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I would absolutely love to write a book. One of these days, maybe. We'll see. Maybe if I hit the lottery.
There you
go. It could happen, right?
Hey, you never know. But it can't happen if you don't play.
Exactly. And I do once in a while. Not that much, but I do.
I'm with you. I see the sign every day on the highway going to work, and I'm like, should I play? Shouldn't I play?
I don't play that often. I really don't.
I don't either.
But I do play occasionally, and I usually just take a computer pick. I should play my own numbers though, but then if I don't win, I'll say I picked the wrong numbers. Maybe I should let the computer pick, so I don't know. But yeah, I would definitely like to write a book. It would be nice.
All right, so let's get into, before we wrap up shop, let's get into the whole fact that you brought back to life Rasslin Radio.
I am so excited. I am so happy that happened. And I got to give my friend Matt a lot of props. Because if he didn't put that little nugget in my head, it would never have happened.
I wanted to leave. You've been toying with for a long time?
I've always wanted to do something with wrestling in the modern world, in the present world. Always. But I never knew, Then when this thing came up where he said to me, don't you want to leave a legacy for your family, for your children, whatever. And I thought, what, that's really a good idea. But then I never thought of a podcast. Never did I think of a podcast. So then I thought, well, let me talk to Brian. Brian has one. I said, Brian, is it hard to do? And he's like, no, it really isn't. I said, does it cost a lot of money? He goes, no, not to start it up. It really doesn't, blah, blah, blah. So I said, all right, what the hell? So I did. And he helped me. He helped me with everything. God bless him. He did so much for me. And Jeannie came on board. And I said to her, let's just talk. We'll just go on there and talk. We'll tell stories. And then all of a sudden, I guess it's going to be now Saturday coming. It's going to be our 17th week. And we're going to start bringing fans on. That we're going to have old fan club members and stuff like that. I think that's cool stuff,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that once more people hear about it and once more people start looking into it, I think they'll be happier with some of the stories. I think, like I said, I wanted people to know what it was like to be a wrestler when wrestling was starting out, when wrestling was real, And it's funny.
I have a great question for you.
What?
When you bring up fans, what is your earliest memory of Stan the Fan?
Oh, my God. His mother's name was Carmela. Did you know that?
Was it?
Yes, it was. Absolutely. His mother was always there with him. The lady with the gray hair and the glasses.
Yeah, of course.
Carmela. We used to always tell each other, I'm Carmela, you're Carmela. I loved him. I loved him.
Did too.
I loved him, absolutely loved him. He was fantastic. I don't know, God bless him if he's still around or what. But
He is.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I would love to say hi to him. I would love to, contact him. I think that would be awesome. Him, Mark from Cherry Hill.
Whatever happened to that guy?
I don't know. I have no idea.
He was a weird dude.
He was a conversation sparker, though. He'd ask all the right questions. He'd come on and he'd say, "Well, what about this? Or why did this happen?" And then he'd hang up and all. Yeah. He talked like that. But it was I loved all those people from way back then. And Franny Emsley, we can't forget Franny. I loved Franny Emsley. God bless him. He's not with us anymore. He was wonderful. He loved everything that had to do with us and wrestling. It was great. There were so many people from back then. Are you kidding? So that's why I keep announcing. Anybody who was part of the Squared Circle fan club, please call me. And I thought about rekindling Rasslin Radio because that was what is associated with us. You know what I mean? With all three of us still. So that's why I wanted to say Relived, because sometimes we put on a tape from back then. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we talk about one of the tapes from back then. Like I have this whole thing where I had this romance going on with Jerry Lawler. When I cut Tommy Rich was at my house, I was cutting his hair, and there's this big story about that. And I was talking about Tommy being with me at the house, and then all of a sudden Jerry comes on. He's like, "Excuse me, like I was listening to that. What do you mean Tommy Rich was at your house?" It was a big thing, and I loved it. It was great. I loved it. So yeah, I mean, I would love to do something like that again. I'd love to maybe start another fan club, or maybe do another dinner or luncheon and have everybody come there and hang out. I would love to do that again. I think that would be one of the best things in the world. Something to do where, bring an old wrestler with me, And it's funny, when I talked to Manny Fernandez about coming on the show, he said to me, he goes, "Look, I'm going to be honest with you." He goes, "I'm old school." He goes, "I don't do any of this modern crap." I said, "That's exactly what I need." I said, "It's all old school. All of it is." So, he's excited about it. It's going to be sometime, I'm hoping, in August that we're going to be able to get him. Yeah. So, I'll announce it ahead of time.
That's great. This has been amazing, Carmela. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking me.
I can't tell you how much fun I've had today.
Thank you. I've had a ball. This is wonderful. Thank you for asking me. I had a wonderful time. I wouldn't trade this for anything in the world either. Believe me, I had a blast. And I hope everybody who listens likes it. I really do. And I hope they continue to listen to both of us. I think it'll be great. I think it'll be great. Thank you so much.
Now, where can everybody go to find Rasslin Radio Revisited?
Okay, it's on YouTube right now. Okay, you can go to YouTube for any of it. It's on my channel. You can also go on most platforms. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeartRadio. I think iTunes. We're on almost any platform where you can listen to a podcast. Of course, the only one where you can actually see us is YouTube. So that's just put my name up there, and it'll come up. And if anybody wants to write to me or Jeannie or Brian, you can write to us at 316 Carmela with 1 L at gmail.com. Anything. We would love to hear from everybody. I want to know what you think of tonight's show. That's just great.
Yeah.
It's great. And we're going to have you on our show. We're going to have you on our show too.
Just let me know when.
Oh, I will, definitely. We'll be in touch with Joel and everything. But I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this. Thank you so much, Bay. I appreciate it. God bless you.
You too. And
anytime.
Hey, they're not Italian.
They're not Italian. And it's gravy. It's
absolutely.
Oh, my God. That's funny. Well, thanks again. And I will hopefully talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Everybody go check her out, Rasslin Radio Revisited.
Thank you.
She has so much knowledge, respect, and love for this business. And the stories out the wazoo that will make your head spin.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot that I haven't said yet either. There's a lot. And I'm going to do it a little bit at a time. It's
That's
coming.
That's it.
All right. Thank you, Bay.
Keep dropping them nuggets.
Oh,
you
well.
too.
Okay, take care. And I'm going to cook for you one day.
Oh, I want them cutlets.
You'll get one. Definitely.
One.
You might, a couple. You might have to fight Joel for them, though. Yeah, he doesn't let me cook for anybody else unless he's there. So you have to fight him for them.
I think he'll allow me to have like 3 or 4 meals.
Okay, that's fine. That's what we'll do. We'll absolutely do. We'll have to go to his house and do it, but we'll do it.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Check her out,
you.
Carmela's Wrestling Radio Revisited, and you never know what the world can bring in the future.
I hope so. God bless you.
And much more.
There you go. We're in all the way in. I love you. Thank you very much.
Love you, Carm. Take care.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.